You're watching breakfast on BBC News. That's look at the papers for this morning. The Sunday papers, if I can just wait till you might have longer on than me.
Of course, we know the Prince Charles very active, very vocal in the field of climate change.
One page of the Sunday Mail has a story that I can't find anywhere else in the papers, actually. They're saying new guidelines, NHS guidelines issued by the British Medical Association, suggesting that you shouldn't call pregnant patients mothers. They say it is in order to avoid offending transgender people.
That's a piece of great fake news, if ever I heard it. It's not even news, it's just ridiculous. But there is a reason, there is a rhyme, and there is a rationale behind that, because they're feeding us with a particular agenda.
This is the ultimate secret.
It's about the blood. These are bloodlines, 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati.
And it's like, if you're not careful, you will start taking on board and believing half of the values and half of the issues and half of the things that they actually put inside this fake news. So let me run that by you again.
They're saying new guidelines, NHS guidelines issued by the British Medical Association, suggesting that you shouldn't call pregnant patients mothers. They say it is in order to avoid offending transgender people.
They said that in the NHS, in the not too distant future, they will stop referring to pregnant women as being mothers.
My friends, the information that you are about to witness from all of my years of research is the most important. It's been hidden in plain view the entire time. This is the ultimate secret.
It's about the blood.
That's a piece of great fake news, if ever I heard it. It's not even news, it's just ridiculous. But there is a reason, there is a rhyme, and there is a rationale behind that, because they're feeding us with a particular agenda.
It's about the blood. These are bloodlines, 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Kennedy died at 1 p.m.
Upon a time, there were two little girls who
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation. Every day, our senses are being constantly bombarded by subliminal messages that are found in TV, movies, and advertisements. The subliminal messages we are subjected to are unrecognizable by the conscious mind and only recognizable in our subconscious mind. The messages and imagery are passively absorbed and then stored in our subconscious, where propagandists deliberately implant artificial thoughts, which in turn can affect our actions and attitudes later in life.
In a basic college level marketing class, in your first year of radio, television, and film, at least for me, and then I've seen some other textbooks and curriculum and found it's also in those, but most RTF schooling teaches you that they have had subliminals for at least 70 years in the United States and Europe. And so, yes, there is subliminal messaging everywhere. It is all over the place. It's an absolute fact that they flicker it at a rate, and that they have the televisions designed for that rate, to bring you into a dreamlike state, to bring you into a dreamlike state, to bring you into a dreamlike state, to bring you into a dreamlike state.
Now you have some tune make you laugh, but when you hear this one, this special is very serious. Now you have some tune make you laugh, but when you hear this one, this special is very serious. So I want to all who can dance, we shut up and leave.
This big stick man right here, RBGs, Gorillas Worldwide. You are now listening to the voice of the underground, you know what I'm saying? Holding it down underground. Underground is bad boys moving silence, you know what I mean? Some of us rap.
Television set was fired up in the 1920s, after basically being in development since the mid-1800s. Of course, movies were still being created and viewed since the 1890s using different means, but it wasn't until the late 1920s when live broadcast television programming began. The first American news broadcast was in 1930, Since then, we have been heavily brainwashed and dumbed down, and now there are more TVs than people in the average American household. The same goes for Canada, the United Kingdom, and many other countries. If we're not watching TV on our TV, then we're watching it on our phones, our tablets, our computers. We're constantly saturated in mainstream media content and subjected to numerous techniques for mental conditioning. The following video is an attempt at helping you understand some of these techniques. Being aware of what's happening and fully acknowledging it is the only way to free yourself from it.
You are now listening to the voice of the underground. You know what I'm saying?
Two options. You either follow my rules or follow my rules. Capiche?
Thank you.
I can do it a different way.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
To bring you into a dreamlike state. To bring you into a dreamlike state.
I felt that it was important to use the medium to critique the medium.
Psychological warfare has been waged against America for much of this century. This war for the mind of the public has been facilitated by the emergence of mass media and the transformation of American education by behavioral psychologists.
I want them to think anything. I don't want them not to think. Put something in front of them that could be thought of critically as opposed to passively.
Thank you for joining us live on the air.
My pleasure.
One nation under God has turned into one nation under the influence of one drug. Television.
In the book 1984, George Orwell warned that people were in danger of losing their human qualities and freedom of mind without being aware of it while it was happening because of psychological, emotional, and intellectual manipulation, mind control. The most effective way to protect yourself from subconscious manipulation is by being aware of how it works. What the conscious mind believes, the subconscious acts on. It works like programming a computer. Information is fed into a computer, and the computer acts on it. However, if the information fed into the computer is wrong, it still acts on it. If a person believes something that is not true, the memory banks of the subconscious mind do not correct the error, but act on it. The theory of cognitive dissonance holds that the mind automatically and involuntarily rejects information not in line with previously accepted thoughts and beliefs. Watching television often produces an altered state of consciousness. Watching television often produces an altered state of consciousness. Watching television often produces an altered state of consciousness.
I mean, it is a fact that within minutes, you go into a dream brainwave when watching television. Go read a book by the father of modern advertising, Edward Bernays, where he calls you a dumb slave and admits they run your whole life. I've read both his major books. One of them's called Propaganda. Edward Bernays.
Watching television often produces an altered state of consciousness. Though not consciously perceived, the television screen, while appearing static, actually flickers. Any repeating light or sound pattern can lead you into an altered state. A hypnotist uses pattern speech by varying the pacing and inflection of his voice to induce this state of mind in his subject. It is in this state of mind where one is the most receptive to mental programming. Whether or not the information takes hold in the mind depends on two factors: trust in the source of the information and repetition of the message. Trust in the source of the information induces acceptance of the message as true, even if it is not understood. Repetition of the message embeds it in the subconscious so that acceptance of its truth and accuracy becomes a conditioned response. Thus, this information will be accepted as true without thinking about it whenever it is presented again.
The flicker rate on the television is very, very important. It was timed to be so many cycles per second, and it actually just meets with the brain patterns for an alpha state. When our brain sees it through our eyes, we start to adopt that flicker rate in our mind, and we go into a deep alpha state. Watch children and watch their mouths. They drop open. They won't hear their parents talking. They're hypnotized, in fact. Why would they give that particular flicker rate when they could have chosen of a whole variety of flicker rates? It wasn't an essential thing to have. So it was done for a purpose. It was meant to be hypnotic. It was meant to be used as a tool of propaganda and indoctrination, even through the guise of entertainment and so on. It also was to create a new society because they were the avant-garde, as I say, leading the sexual revolution through drama, through little documentaries, fiction, non-fiction, all combines. Once again, back to Plato, the audience see what they see. You understand that it's even worked out towards different age groups. There's something on for everybody's age group. Each age group is actually being updated as well, even the elderly ones, into new ways of thinking or seeing things. But the target mainly was for youngsters. If we take one of the world's experts on propaganda, who was Jacques Ellul, who wrote extensively on how the mind works and how all entertainment, he said, that has to do with government programs such as police, detective stories, detective series, which contain little human dramas as the hook that you identify with, to make you watch the whole story. Child gets kidnapped, detective goes on a hunt, he goes through hell and fire to get that child back. You identify with the hero if you're a male, you identify with the heroine if you're female. And that's the hook to get you to watch them. But what he said was, all dramas to do with police, or even the military in movies, are pure propaganda. Pure propaganda. The human story is just the bait to make you watch through it, to get you to identify with it. Because once again, there's always a message left somewhere in the movie. It might even be a message that's against your own morality. It could be where the cop, for instance, does sleep with this beautiful woman while his wife was at home, and it's all part of the story, and even tell you why he did this. He was feeling down that day, blah, blah, blah. And so you've just again altered your viewpoints on how you yourself might behave in that situation. And that sometimes that kind of thing can be justified. That's how you're downloaded through entertainment. It's there to alter and direct and always upgrade into another step of the direction that the entire culture for someone else's purpose. Let's talk about the effects of the alpha state first of all. Recent articles I've even read on the air from various science studies show you that even when you switch off television, you remain in that alpha state for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes longer, depending on how long you've been watching it. With high definition, again, why would a president of a country mandate that all TVs had to go high definition? Is it because he really cares so much about your happiness? And he wants better quality for you? Or is there another reason for it? Well, I'm sure the effects of the old flicker rates and what it did will also be incorporated in high definition, but with even more added benefits for bringing you into a complete hypnotic state. How do you wake someone up who's addicted to television? You can't. Very, very simple. You can't get your daily brainwashing, where literally it's bypassing any consciousness in the person. You can't take that every day and still try to wake up and learn at the same time. I've known people who've gone through complete withdrawal from television and gone into depressions because their entire routine is broken. They also have time on their hands, which is a big aspect of control, remember too. if you can take time away from a person who can think for themselves, who might say, oh, I'll go and read a book, I'll go and study something, or if you can take that time away from them and have them mesmerized in front of a television set, then you'll keep them dumb, stupid, compliant, and going along with the system. I always advise to people, if you know someone who's watching TV, it's quite simple to find out where they are mentally, psychologically, in the understanding of things. You can ask them a few simple questions. If they give you standard television answers, forget it. Simple as that, forget it. If you see some spark of their own opinion coming in, there's maybe a chance you can do something with them. But you cannot get off. You see, television, it can be classified as a drug.
People think that hypnosis is some mysterious, esoteric thing, and it's not. It's just simply a mental transaction in which a person has focused their attention, they've stopped being critical, and they're more open to suggestion.
We're going to start by playing the national anthem, which was the sign-off on television stations across the nation back in the 1960s.
Our national anthem.
Now we're going to go ahead and watch this national anthem again, only this time we're going to watch it slowed way down. Tell me if you notice anything different from the last time you watched it. Did you see the letters change at the bottom? Let's watch it again in even slower frame by frame motion. It happens so quickly you can barely see it, but you aren't meant to physically, literally see it. You are meant to subconsciously see it. It is meant to go into the subconscious and implant itself into your brain on a subconscious level. And this continues throughout this entire national anthem, and it becomes basically like the script for the movie They Live. This video was shown signing off of television programming for the day throughout the 60s, and we know that during that time is the same exact time that the mass mind control MK Ultra project, the government covert operation, was going on in the United States. They were carrying it out on the American people, and that's been admitted. The CIA admitted it in, 1970? And there's even a speech where Bill Clinton apologized for it in 1995. So this is all on record. This is not a debunked video by any means. In fact, everything I've looked up on this video has only gone to show that it is in fact a real video that was in fact shown on national television networks throughout the country in the 1960s. And if you guys think they're not using this kind of programming today, I assure you that they are. It's just gotten much, much more sophisticated.
Baby Einstein Company was born, and in just 5 years her business grew to more than $20 million in sales. Julie Eigner Clark.
This is a billion-dollar industry that is a complete and total scam. There's no evidence that a baby watching a DVD is learning anything.
Educational videos aimed at babies may not be such a bright idea after all. A new study found that children who watch popular DVDs like Baby Einstein and Brainy Baby actually have poorer vocabularies. One researcher even said she'd rather have babies watch American Idol.
The American Academy of Pediatrics has now for 7 years recommended that there be no screen media used for children under the age of 2. And this is for some very specific reasons. First of all, there is no solid scientific research evidence that children under the age of 30 months or 2.5 years can learn anything from an electronic screen. A lot of media early may in fact change the way the brain develops.
3 new studies out tonight are the latest to suggest that heavy television watching can hurt children's ability to learn.
The more television infants and toddlers watch, the greater the chance they'll have trouble paying attention and concentrating during their very early school years.
Researchers say hours spent in front of the TV only trains the brain to watch more TV. A child weaned on bright colors and rapidly changing images will find it tough to focus on a teacher.
Nice jacket. Abercrombie?
Please, it's Dior. Why, is yours from ANF?
Our mom bought it for him at Kmart.
I think the thing that upsets me the most is that it's not just products that are being marketed to children, but values. And the primary value that's being sold to kids over and over and over again is a value that things or stuff or brands will make us happy.
Corporate marketers have actually studied the whole nagging phenomenon, which corporations do nagging better, and they provide advice to corporations about, what kinds of tantrums work better.
Children sometimes say, can I, as much as 9 times.
Will you take us to Mount Splashmore? No. Will you take us to Mount Splashmore? No. Will you take us to Mount Splashmore?
No.
And part of the nag factor is designed to help maximize the number of times children will keep asking and keep asking.
No! Will you take us to Mount Splashmore? Will you take us to Mount Splashmore?
If I take you, will you two shut up and quit bugging me?
Yeah, of course. Well, will you take us to Mount Splashmore?
Yes!
Thanks, Dad.
So, these kids have a lot of power in the economy. The advertisers know it, and they are going after them in a way that is unprecedented.
It's the place where I want to be.
This generation of children is marketed to as never before. Kids are being marketed to through brand licensing, through product placement, marketing in schools, through stealth marketing, through viral marketing. There's DVDs, there's video games, there's the internet, there are iPods. There are cell phones. There are so many more ways of reaching children so that there's a brand in front of a child's face every moment of every day.
What we have is the rise of 360-degree immersive marketing, where they try and get around the child at every aspect, at every avenue.
Kids are inundated with this. They are buried in this media blitz.
Kids are now multitasking with media.
Hello? Hey girl, what's up? No way.
Babe, you wanna plug in your iPod or MP3 player?
Yeah, new music.
They are using more than one medium at the same time. So they're surfing the web, and the television's going with MTV, and they've got the iPod with one earbud in, and they are more vulnerable and are bombarded with over 3,000 commercial messages every day.
Marketers know these are little sponges. They're so wide open. They want to get that brand loyalty for life, because that's big bucks.
It's about people wanting to convince our children that life is about buying, life is about getting. It's part of this by any means necessary. I mean, we've got to get to the kid. We've got to make sure that that child is indoctrinated as a consumer cadet, so therefore we've got to get to them in ways that maybe they don't even know.
Most would say that the idea of using actors to trick the public for political purposes is preposterous. But then again, most people are unaware of a declassified CIA program called Operation Mockingbird, which is solid, undeniable proof that our government is very much interested in using the media for trickery and deception. Here's a short clip from those congressional hearings.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
Senator, do you think that you named the news organizations in your final report?
That remains to be decided.
I think it was entirely in order for our correspondents at that time to make use of CIA agent chiefs of station and other members of the executive staff of CIA as sources of information which were useful in their assessments of world conditions.
Would you say that continues today?
Well, I would think probably for a reporter it would continue today, but because of all of the revelations of the period of the 1970s, it seems to me that a reporter's got to be much more circumspect in doing it now, or he runs the risk of at least being looked at with considerable disfavor by the public. I think you've got to be much more careful about it.
In 1948, there was a law passed so that our government couldn't use propaganda against its own citizens. In May 2012, 7 months before Sandy Hook, a Texan Republican introduced an act called H.R. 5736 Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, which was an amendment to the 1948 bill, making it legal for the government to disseminate their own propaganda in America using the press, publications, the radio, motion picture films, the internet, and social media, while also giving themselves the power to put any propaganda they want directly into their archives, no questions asked. Which means their lies and time will officially become history. We all know we've been already receiving propaganda through film and the mainstream media for decades, so you have to wonder what level they intend on taking it with this bill. This bill died in the Senate, but was brought up again as an amendment in the 2012 NDAA, found on pages 326 to 328. As stated on maxkaiser.com, it is the same exact bill except one word is left out. The article goes on to mention that Section B expressly allows the use of propaganda domestically as long as there is some possibility that at least one non-US citizen will eventually receive the given communication. This completely reminds me of the scene in the movie Wag the Dog, and if you haven't seen that movie, I strongly recommend it.
The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed. Our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we've never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized.
And I'll also mention too that a fellow that has been in touch with me for an awful long time, his brother was in the CIA, or is in the CIA. He will never talk about the CIA to him. He'll never give anything away whatsoever, except one bit of advice. He said, never watch the television. Never watch the television. It's the greatest scientific indoctrination tool ever devised. Haven't you figured that out? It's changed the whole culture of nations, not just one nation. Why do you think it was mandatory that everybody in Britain give access to televisions by the government? Why do you think China is under the same program to get everyone with a TV right now? Because they love to have you entertained. Do you really think that? And India is on the same route as well right now too. Most of your ideas and your opinions and how you emulate, because you emulate things, you mimic what you see. As Charles Galton, Darwin and others have said in the past. It becomes you become it. And that's what's happened. It's been very, very, very successful. Never watch the television. You can't watch a movie unless you do it critically. If you watch it critically, not there to enjoy it. Remember what they say, it's your emotions that get you on. And it's interwoven, all these emotional themes all through movies. You're played like a harp. And they embed ideas into you, along with the movies, and predictive programming too, so you'll accept that which is still to come. And you'll behave the same way as the characters in the movie when it comes. Oh well, what can you do? All this watch music or television. Yeah. You're given a mind of your own, and you've got to use it for yourself.
Mind control is one of the tools that they use. How they get you into the condition to be controlled is by using certain signs and symbols, frequencies, tones, colors, shapes, numbers that they hide subconsciously in the frequency of the music and in the 23rd frame, I believe, on TVs and the movies. Look at the movie-going experience. We go in and we buy butter, popcorn, and Coke. You're actually buying cocaine, and you're buying this chemical called popcorn. Why do I call it a chemical? That butter is not really butter. But when you put it on the popcorn and you put it in the microwave, it becomes a chemical that lulls your subconscious mind to sleep. Inducing you and lulling you to sleep, so by the time you walk into a dark movie theater, you're already prepped. You're laying there, you're damn near dozing off. You're focusing in on a screen in the dark with the surround sound, and they're attacking your subconscious mind with frequencies and images. Go to The Arrivals on YouTube. The Arrivals. A-R-R-I-V-A-L-S. The Arrivals. Go to number 10 and watch it through number 12. You're a corny white girl that fall down in every damn horror flick. Are you following me? So we have to understand it. So now to the small screen, they keep the small screen filled with nonsense. Channel Zero, I wrote a song with Public Enemy. Channel Zero is what we call it, which actually amounts to absolutely nothing. I don't care if it's the daytime stories or the unreality shows or MTV Cribs, Pimp My Ride, or whatever. Absolutely nonsense.
If you watch cable, don't do it, because one of the implementations is the box that you have to get for your cable TV. And that is one of the ways that they have found out that certain sound waves can control you.
So there are sound waves. There are sound waves that come out of the cable box.
That comes out of your TV.
That come out of your TV.
They can tweak it to where they can make you feel sad, they can make you feel glad. You know how people have those super harmonious CDs that pop in and say they feel good?
Yeah. Oh.
It's the exact same thing.
Exact same thing.
And it's very simple, it's very cheap, it works,
And you pay a monthly premium for it.
It's a very simple equation here. They control by controlling the information that people receive. If we are going to, and we are in the process of dismantling this, then alternative information that tells the truth about the movie and exposes it needs to get out there. Now, everyone has got a mouth. Everyone. And everyone's got a voice box, or virtually everyone. And therefore we can articulate and pass this on. And so, it's ridiculous to say there's nothing we can do. We can get onto radio phone-ins on radio shows that don't talk about this and bring those issues into the debate. I think they've realized that there is a challenge coming here, and people are, in increasingly vast numbers, are so open to this. I tell you what it is. This is why it's so important to communicate this stuff. Is the number of people who come across this information that didn't know it existed, and they go, "Do you know, I thought that was going on. I've always thought that," but they haven't talked about it. And then they realise that their friends thought like that too. They haven't talked about it either. We need to start communicating this, and then we'll realise just how many people out there are actually of like mind.
Visions of Martin Luther staring at me. Malcolm X put a hex on my future, someone catch me. I'm falling victim to a revolutionary song.
Satan knows that secular songs glorifies sin, because while you're listening to it, sin is on your mind, like lust.
Why you think our country's so innocent?
I want to talk about twerking, lap dancing, pole dancing, and it's linked to demon possession. Twerking, lap dancing, it's basic demon possession. It's demon possession 101. Some spirit of Shaitan, some spirit of Ishtar or Baal, some spirit of some demonic personage invites himself into a human body and basically makes him perform in such a manner. I've got to say it's demon possession, purely because that I would not like my sister, my mother, my lover, my daughter, or anybody in my family to be doing it or to be performing it. I think it's quite shocking, it's quite disgraceful and quite distasteful. If you look at American culture and British European culture, in the last 30-40 years there's been a rapid decline in moral efficacy and moral standards. What can be considered to be today soft porn would be considered to be ridiculously hardcore porn and absolutely banned in America 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Why you think our country's so innocent?
Like lust, partying.
It's that time of the week she like to freak a leak and get naughty. Therefore I like to thank God and Ice Cube for Friday, cause la-di-da-di.
Drinking, smoking, violence,
I ain't never touched a gas that I couldn't shoot.
and rage. Satan promotes the different styles of music with a secular artist, like hip-hop, rap, R&B, pop, rock, and metal.
One nation under God has turned into one nation under the influence of one drug. Television, the drug of a nation.
Frightening, so frightening enough to drive a man insane. I need a license to kill. I'm standing on a field full of landmines doing the moonwalk, hoping I blow up in time. Cause 2012 might not be a legend. Who said a black man in the Illuminati? Last time I checked, that was the biggest racist party.
50 channels 24 hours a day. You can flip through all of them, and still there's nothing worth it.
I sold my soul to the devil.
In other words, he made the oath with the devil. Say music is your life and you controlled by the devil.
Now you see him wearing the Baphomet. Demonic energy. You've heard of Aleister Crowley's slogan, do what thou wilt, is the whole of the law. This is their slogan, all right? Don't pay attention to the laws that were laid out. Pay no attention to God, your elders, your ancestors, but do what thou wilt is the whole of the law.
Frightening, so frightening, enough to drive a man insane. I need a license to kill. I'm standing on a field full of landmines doing the moonwalk, hoping I blow up in time. Cause 2012 might not be a legend. Who said a black man in the Illuminati? Last time I checked, that was the biggest racist party.
This man, Zbigniew Brzezinski, was speaking before the British Council on Foreign Relations, and he was telling this group of elite called the Illuminati, we have lost control of the masses of the people.
TV, its satellite links are United States of unconsciousness. Apathetic, therapeutic, and extremely addictive.
Listen to what he said. He said, for the first time in human history, almost all of humanity is politically activated, politically conscious, and politically interactive.
TV is a reason why less than 10% of our nation reads books daily. Why most people think Central America means Kansas. Socialism means un-American, and apartheid is the new headache remedy.
There are only a few pockets of humanity left in the remotest corners of the world that are not politically alert and engaged with the political turmoil and stirrings that are so widespread today around the earth.
TV is a reason why less than 10% of our nation reads books daily. Why most people think Central America means Kansas. Socialism means un-American, and apartheid is the new headache remedy. Absorbed in its world, it's so hard to find us. It shapes our minds the most.
This party.